Good morning, students. Yesterday we looked into the topic of agro-based industries when in this chapter of manufacturing industries, and we also saw that how important the agro-based industries have been in India. And it is not just about that the agro-based industry would mean, that is things that are related to essentially what we eat and consume. Like you can talk about things that are you could be juice industry from different kinds of juice which is available within the market. Then you could be having so much or talking so much about the packaged food and all of that, but we are not talking about those industries here at all. Now currently what we are talking about is certain things which play far more monumental and instrumental role in the economy of the country, and also the fact that we are not talking about an item like juice or canned juice uh, which is consumed by only a select group of population within a society. We are here talking about things like textile industry, which definitely is used whatever the manufacturing, whether it is cheap textile, cheap fabric, or very very expensive fabric, it is consumed and used by all of us, every human being on this planet. Okay, so cotton industries in ancient India, we know that how old and how ancient the cotton based products in India have been right from the times of Ramayana and even before that, because India was lucky and very fortunate to have um, a weather and a climate which favored the production of cotton plants, and the produce was of top quality. The best quality cotton is still considered to be the Egyptian cotton, but yes, Indian cotton was very very reputed and very respected as well. So in ancient India, cotton textiles were produced with hand spinning and handloom weaving techniques. After the 18th century, power looms came into use naturally because of the industrial production, or an industrial revolution, that is, when you had massive machines which would be taking care of, which would need just 5 people to operate or 50 people to operate, and they would be taking care of the things which would take probably 400 people to manufacture, and they would be just doing it 20, 30 employees and workers would be able to handle all that responsibility. Traditional industries suffered a setback during the colonial period because they could not compete with the mill-made cloth from England. So you have studied in history books, I'm sure, in class 9, and also in class 10. If you haven't, you would, that we know that how the handmade cotton and fabric and the cloth that was manufactured in India suffered a huge setback when the British came to India and brought along with them the factory manufactured goods of England, because it was obvious that if you have something which is made by hand, the workers, naturally, it would cost more compared to what the machines would manufacture, and the goods that were being manufactured in England, that is the machine goods, the goods that were being produced in the fabric, the cloth that was being produced in England with the help of machines, they were far more cheaper compared to the Indian textile which was being produced by hand, and naturally the Indian textile was not able to compete in the long run and suffered huge losses. And as on 31st November 2011, there were 1946 cotton and human-made fiber textile mills in the country, about 80% of these in the private sector and rest in the public and cooperative sectors. Apart from these, there are several thousand small factories with 4 to 10 looms. In the early years, the cotton textile industry was concentrated in the cotton growing belt of Maharashtra and Gujarat. It very much, even today, it is almost the same. Of course, it has spread to certain other parts of the country, no doubt, but majority of the mills, the textile mills, you would find still in the Gujarat and the Maharashtra belt. This industry had close links with agriculture and provides a living to farmers, cotton ball pluckers, and workers engaged in ginning, spinning, weaving, dyeing, designing, packaging, tailoring, and sewing. The industry, by creating demand, supports many other industries such as chemicals and dyes, packaging materials, and engineering works. It is something which is very obvious that you have to manufacture textiles. Then you do not go to the factory to buy the shirt or the trouser that you want to use. You naturally have to go to shops and malls, and then there is a whole distribution and retail network which is there to support the textile industry. While spinning continues to be centralized in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu, weaving is highly decentralized to provide scope for incorporating traditional skills such as design, weaving in cotton, silk, zari, embroidery, etc. This is something which we all know, students. While spinning continues to be centralized, but when it comes to weaving, naturally different states in India, weaving, when you talk about Bengal has its own traditions, Maharashtra has its own traditions, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, southern states, they all have their own cultures, and they all have their own traditions. Just take for example sari, right? Maharashtra, if you see, their saris are different. If you see the saris which are produced in Assam, Bengal, Orissa, those saris are entirely different. And if you go further south, you would naturally see that their pattern and embroidery and everything around which is about their saris is different. So that is what they are trying to tell you here. Here, yes. But let's look into these two very interesting trivia here. The first successful textile mill was established in Bombay in 1854. The two world wars were fought in Europe. India was a British colony. There was a demand for cloth in UK, hence they gave a boost to the development of cotton textile industry. If you go a bit more into the history of it, you would understand that during these wars, that is the First World War and the Second World War, the British factories, the factories in England, were being bombarded by the enemy fire and mortar and all the shells, and so that is why they were in great danger. And naturally, most of the people, most of the men, young men who used to work in those factories were now soldiers, so they could not work in those factories. Now those factories were usually now manned by the women, and definitely the production wasn't much. And these were the wars when the Indian manufacturers, because India did not directly bear the brunt of the First World War or the Second World War, and the Indian manufacturers were able to do a great amount of and make great amount of profit, and also able to make great amount of money during this point in time. And so let's go here. India exports yarn to Japan. Other importers of cotton goods from India are US, United Kingdom, Russia, France, East European countries, Nepal, Singapore, Sri Lanka, and African countries. Okay, and India has the second largest installed capacity of spindles in the world after China. So definitely that gives you an idea that China also happens to be a very important manufacturer of cloth and fabrics. Students, this map is very important. These maps are, in fact, students, always very important, not just this one. Maps are always very important. Go through these maps. Okay, there are some very interesting things you would find there, and they're also very important from the examination point of view as well. Okay. Uh, most of the production most of the production is in fragmented small units which cater to this local market. This mismatch is a major drawback for the industry. As a result, many of our spinners export cotton yarns, while the garment manufacturers have to import fabric. Now, it is essentially trying to tell you that in India, it is not just that the large manufacturing units hold the sway, it is also the small manufacturers who produce a huge amount of the output. And this is something which is very interesting here. Why is it, yes, this question, why is it important for us to improve our weaving sector instead of exporting yarn in large quantities? It is essentially trying to tell you that why do we export yarn in large quantities when we can also increase the production here in India and can something which can be very profitable for our producers, the manufacturers, and the laborers as well. Although we have made significant increase in the production of good quality long staple cotton, the need to import is still felt. Power supply is erratic, that is irregular, and machinery needs to be upgraded in the weaving and processing sectors. In particular, other problems are the low output of labor and stiff competition with the synthetic fiber industry. So essentially, it tries to tell you that this industry is not getting the kind of investment it should ideally, and the government should be making more investment in these industries, and the private sector should also be making investment in these industries to ensure that the industry flourishes, because what it is trying to tell you is that there is no dearth of raw materials in India, because we are very fortunate to have cotton and cotton and a top quality cotton which grows in the climatic condition of India. Jute textiles we shall be starting tomorrow. Thank you.